In order to strengthen its control over the South China Sea, China has spent $820 million to build a huge artificial island with a total area of 8,500 acres. The latest images from the U.S. National Satellite reveal the rapid development on the island. A 610-meter-long airport runway is almost completed. Some new houses and a small port have been built on the island, and the entire island now covers an area of more than 4,500 acres. However, this rapid expansion has caused strong concerns in Vietnam, which believes that these large-scale military and infrastructure construction may undermine the security and stability of the region. Vietnam has asked China to immediately stop this expansion. In today's video, we will explain why China has invested heavily in building this artificial island and what impact this island will have on Vietnam and the entire region. If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. China's infrastructure construction capabilities are obvious to all around the world, but you may not know that China has also reached the world's leading level in land reclamation technology. This technology is widely used in port construction and the expansion of coastal cities, involving hundreds of other projects. It has promoted China's remarkable achievements in port construction and fundamentally changed the infrastructure and appearance of the South China Sea islands. According to statistics, China has nearly 200 islands and reefs in the South China Sea, 7 of which have undergone large-scale expansion, and the Chinese military has also established long-term garrisons on these islands and reefs. As the South China Sea dispute continues to heat up, China's artificial island expansion activities have also attracted the attention of the international community. In March of this year, a U.S. satellite released an image of a new military base island that China is accelerating to build in the South China Sea. This island is the Zhongjian Island, 323 kilometers away from the Chinese mainland. But many people may not be familiar with the history of Zhongjian Island. As early as 1978, China realized that to fully utilize the potential of Zhongjian Island, it must start with infrastructure construction. At that time, the island had almost no soil, just a barren land scattered with corals and gravel, and almost no vegetation. In order to build it into a place suitable for long-term human habitation, improving soil quality became a top priority. China began to transport large amounts of soil and fertilizer from the mainland to the island, and began to carefully cultivate tropical plants such as coconut trees and masan pines that are suitable for the South China Sea climate. In this process, experts carefully selected plant varieties that can adapt to the local environment. Years of unremitting efforts have enabled these plants to gradually take root on the island and form an ecosystem. By the 21st century, there are nearly 300 coconut trees and masan pines growing on the island, turning the once wasteland into a lush oasis. At first, the facilities on Zhongjian Island were quite simple, mainly consisting of an observation station and some infrastructure. The core task of these facilities was to monitor and warn warships and ships from other countries to prevent them from illegally entering the area. As time went by, China decided to expand the island on a larger scale. They invested $350 million to expand the island from the original 0.2 square kilometers to 15 square kilometers, which also laid a solid foundation for future infrastructure construction. By 2012, high-power generators were installed on the island to ensure continuous power supply throughout the island. The living conditions of the officers and soldiers have also been greatly improved. Their dormitories are equipped with modern facilities such as air conditioning, satellite TV, and 4G network connection, which greatly improves their quality of life and work. In addition, an advanced large-scale radar station has been built on the island, which provides high-tech support for the defense of the entire Shisha Islands, and its defense capabilities are difficult to find in other military bases. In order to build Zhongjian Island into a strategic military base, China has also specially built a 600-meter-long and 14-meter-wide airport runway. Today, in order to accelerate the construction of the military base on Zhongjian Island, China plans to spend up to $820 million to comprehensively upgrade the facilities on the island. The latest satellite images reveal that China is opening up a new work area on the island, including a concrete structure under construction, and the foundation-laying work is in full swing. At the same time, many buildings near the small port are also under construction. This series of construction plans indicates that Zhongjian Island will usher in a larger-scale development. Near the original buildings, a large-scale modern camp is rapidly rising. The modern style of these buildings makes Zhongjian Island look more and more like an emerging small city. At the same time, the airport runway on the island may also be planned for further expansion. Considering the strategic geographical location of Zhongjian Island, future infrastructure construction will also include the deployment of surface-to-air and surface-to-surface missile systems and equipped with advanced reconnaissance equipment. So, how important is this island to China? By looking at the map, we can see that Zhongjian Island is located at the southwest end of the Shisha Islands, and there is another Chinese military island, Yongxing Island, at the northeast end. The strategic locations between the two islands support each other and can effectively prevent warships from illegally approaching Chinese territory. In the future, the development of these artificial islands will further strengthen China's strategic deployment in the South China Sea. The construction of military facilities on the islands will also enable China to more effectively control the dynamics of the South China Sea. This is obviously a strong warning signal for those countries that intend to invade the South China Sea. Of course, the Strait of Malacca, as one of China's main sea routes, is vital to China's security. But in the past few decades, the United States, the Philippines, and India have deployed a large number of military forces in the Strait of Malacca, posing a serious threat to China's shipping security. Using these naval bases, the United States can demonstrate its military strength in the Strait of Malacca at any time. However, if China successfully establishes a military base on Zhongjian Island in the South China Sea, on the one hand, it can greatly enhance its monitoring and reconnaissance capabilities in the South China Sea, and on the other hand, it can also expand its surveillance range to the Strait of Malacca and even further south. Therefore, any measures aimed at enhancing China's surveillance capabilities in the South China Sea may have a significant and far-reaching impact on the security situation in the Strait of Malacca. In addition to strengthening its military power in the Strait of Malacca, Zhongjian Island can also enhance China's military geopolitical influence in South Asia. We all know that for more than a decade, the Philippines and China have been in dispute over the sovereignty of islands in the South China Sea. Both sides claim sovereignty over a number of islands and waters, including the Paracel Islands, where Zhongjian Island is located. These disputes have exacerbated tensions between the two countries and posed a threat to regional stability. But on the South China Sea issue, the Philippines has received support from the United States. The United States has expressed serious concern about China's military expansion in the region and is committed to maintaining freedom of navigation and regional stability. The United States and the Philippines have close security cooperation, including military assistance and joint military exercises. As China builds complete military facilities on Zhongjian Island, the increase in its military power may change the military balance in the South China Sea, which may put the Philippines at a disadvantage in the disputes in the South China Sea. But it is worth noting that this action has also triggered strong opposition from Vietnam. Vietnam is worried that this expansion will further exacerbate tensions in the region and pose a greater threat to regional security. Why is that? In fact, the tension between Vietnam and China in the South China Sea is not surprising. From the map, we can see that Vietnam is across the sea from China's Hainan Island, Shisha Islands, and Nansha Islands. These islands are close to Vietnam's waste area, that is, the historic Hue, and are close to Cam Ranh Bay, an important military base in southern Vietnam. Zhongjian Island, as the closest island to Vietnam in the Shisha Islands, is only 250 kilometers away from Vietnam in a straight line, while Da Nang, a Vietnamese city known as the Hawaii of the East, is not only the largest city in the country's waste, but also an important naval and air force base with the ability to dock 10,000-ton warships. Therefore, China's military construction activities on Zhongjian Island have undoubtedly brought considerable strategic pressure to Vietnam. In addition, Vietnam and China have a long history of geopolitical conflicts in the South China Sea. Back in 1974, the naval battle between China and Vietnam ended with China's victory, and China subsequently recovered Coral Island and Treasure Island and other places illegally occupied by Vietnam. In the past few years, Vietnamese fishing boats and armed reconnaissance ships have tried to illegally enter the waters of the Paracel Islands for fishing or military reconnaissance, but they were all driven away in time by Chinese law enforcement personnel. However, when China strengthened the construction of military facilities on Zhongjian Island, Vietnam immediately criticized China's actions on the grounds of illegal occupation and violation of territorial sovereignty. Now, Vietnam is also trying to unite other South Asian countries, hoping that China can stop construction activities on Zhongjian Island. However, I don't think Vietnam needs to worry too much about China's military deployment. Technically speaking, the space limitations of Zhongjian Island mean that the actual usable length of the airport runway currently under construction will not exceed 945 meters. Currently, the runway is 14 meters wide and nearly 610 meters long, which is far from enough for fighter jets. Usually, the shortest distance required for fighter jets to take off and land safely is about 2,100 meters, so this runway of more than 600 meters obviously cannot meet the needs of fighter jets to take off and land. If China really needs to extend the runway, it needs to continue to fill the island to expand it. But we must also see that China and Vietnam have a long land border, and the range and combat radius of modern drones can reach 5,000 or even 10,000 kilometers. If China plans to conduct more in-depth reconnaissance, the drones deployed on the southern tip of the Chinese mainland are sufficient to meet this need. In addition, the island belongs to China's territory, and the construction and military deployment on it are China's internal affairs. Excessive intervention and criticism from other countries do not seem appropriate within the framework of international law and lack practical significance. So, do you think it is right for China to build a military base on Zhongjian Island? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.